You asked an AI a question. The answer appeared in seconds, confident, articulate, complete. You didn't double-check it. You didn't question it. You just accepted it. And here's the thing, you're not alone. In fact, you're in the majority. By a lot. New research is revealing something unsettling about how we interact with artificial intelligence, and it might change how you think about your own thinking. Imagine you're taking a test. Simple questions, objectively correct answers. You have access to a chatbot. It gives you an answer that's clearly, demonstrably wrong. What would you do? You'd catch it, right? You'd think for yourself. That's what we all assume about ourselves. But when researchers at the University of Pennsylvania actually ran this experiment, the results were not what anyone expected. Nearly 80% of people followed the AI's advice, even when it was wrong, even when they could see it was wrong. To understand what's happening here, we need to go back to the year 2011. That's when psychologist Daniel Kahneman published a book that would reshape how we understand the human mind. The book was called Thinking Fast and Slow, and it introduced the world to a revolutionary idea that we don't have one mind. We have two. Kahneman called them System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, automatic, effortless. It's the part of your brain that catches a ball, reads facial expressions, finishes familiar sentences. System 2 is slow, deliberate, effortful. It's the part that solves math problems, compares prices, thinks through complex decisions, and using it feels like work. For over a decade, this two-system framework dominated psychology. It explained everything from optical illusions to economic bubbles to why we make bad decisions when we're tired. But then something happened in November 2022. ChatGPT launched, and within months, 100 million people were using it. Suddenly, there was something new in the cognitive equation. An external system that could generate answers, plausible, confident, instant answers to almost any question. Stephen Shaw and Gideon Nave, researchers at the University of Pennsylvania, started wondering, what happens when you give System 1 and System 2 a competitor? They recruited 359 participants and gave them a series of questions, some easy, some hard. The participants could answer on their own, or they could ask an AI chatbot for help. Here's the twist. The researchers had programmed the chatbot to sometimes give correct answers, and sometimes give answers that were obviously, objectively wrong. When the AI gave correct advice, participants followed it 92.7% of the time. That makes sense. The machine was right, and people recognized it. But when the AI was wrong, when it gave answers that contradicted basic logic or easily verifiable facts, 79.8% still followed its advice. Nearly 80%, even when the answer was demonstrably false, even when their own judgment told them something different. The researchers didn't force anyone to use the AI, it was completely optional. But over 50% of participants chose to consult it, even for questions they could have easily answered themselves. This wasn't laziness in the traditional sense. These were engaged participants actively making choices. They were choosing to outsource their thinking. Shaw and Nave proposed a radical idea. Maybe our old two-system model isn't enough anymore. Maybe we need a new framework, a three-system theory of human cognition. In their words, having the option of AI available for decision-making, people can surrender their thoughts to AI and let it think for them, subverting and substituting System 1 and System 2. They called this new external system 3, and they gave the behavior a name, cognitive surrender. Cognitive surrender. It sounds dramatic, but think about what it actually describes. The voluntary handover of your reasoning to an external system. And here's what makes it different from simply asking an expert or looking something up. We've always sought outside information. That's not new. What's new is the speed, the ease, and the authority with which AI presents information. There's no waiting, no searching, no evaluating sources. Just an instant, confident answer. The researchers emphasize that critical thinking hasn't become optional. As they put it, The capacity to think critically, the capacity to be able to check what the AI is giving you, has become more important over time. But there's a cruel irony here. At the exact moment when critical thinking matters most, when AI can give us wrong answers with perfect confidence, we're exercising it less. Why does this happen? Part of it is simple cognitive economics. Thinking is expensive, it takes time, energy, mental bandwidth. If something can think for you, why wouldn't you let it? But there's something deeper happening. It's about authority. AI doesn't present itself like a guess or a suggestion, it presents like a verdict. The format matters. The tone matters. When an answer appears instantly in complete sentences without hesitation or qualification, it feels authoritative, even when it's not. Psychologists have long understood that we defer to perceived authority. It's called the Milgram effect after the famous 1960s experiments on obedience. We follow instructions from people in lab coats. But AI doesn't wear a lab coat. It doesn't have credentials you can check. Its authority comes purely from its delivery, and that delivery is designed to be seamless. Some researchers argue this isn't necessarily a problem. They say cognitive surrender is rational efficiency. Why spend energy thinking when a machine can do it faster? And for low-stakes questions, maybe that's fine. You don't need to critically evaluate an AI's recommendation for where to get lunch. But the research raises a warning about what happens over time. Psychology Today's analysis points to long-term risks, erosion of institutional knowledge, degradation of analytical skills, increased vulnerability to AI errors. When AI errors propagate through organizational decision-making, when everyone is outsourcing the same thinking to the same systems, mistakes don't stay small, they scale. Think about what muscles atrophy when you stop using them. Your body adapts to whatever you ask of it, or don't ask of it. Your mind works the same way. There's a debate in the research community about whether cognitive surrender is genuinely new or just the latest version of our ancient tendency to defer to experts. We've always trusted authorities, doctors, lawyers, teachers, elders. We don't reinvent knowledge from scratch. We build on what others know. That's civilization. But there's a crucial difference. When you defer to a human expert, you can ask follow-up questions. You can read their hesitation. You can sense when they're uncertain. AI doesn't hesitate. It doesn't say, "I'm not sure about this one." It generates an answer with the same confident tone whether it's right, wrong, or completely fabricated. The researchers call this a new cognitive dynamic. AI can substitute for both System 1, our automatic, intuitive responses, and System 2, our slow, deliberate analysis. That's the heart of System 3 theory. It's not just a tool that augments your thinking. It's a system that can replace it entirely. And the 80% figure isn't abstract. It's not about hypothetical future people in some imagined scenario. It's about people now. It might be about you. When's the last time you questioned an AI's answer? Really stopped to verify something it told you? Not because you were suspicious, but as a habit, as a practice. The researchers aren't saying we should abandon AI, that ship has sailed, but they suggest we can design our relationship with it more intentionally. One approach is what they call friction by design, intentionally introducing steps that slow you down, that force you to evaluate an AI suggestion before accepting it. It might feel inefficient. That's the point. The friction is the feature. It's the pause that gives your own thinking a chance to engage. Consider treating AI outputs as first drafts rather than final answers. A starting point that requires your input, not an ending point that demands your acceptance. And there's value in maintaining what the researchers call your cognitive muscles, regular practice at unassisted reasoning, solving problems, forming opinions, thinking through arguments without algorithmic help. You might want to calibrate your verification to the stakes. Low-stakes queries? Fine, accept the convenience. High-stakes decisions? That's when you engage System 2, deliberately. The questions that matter most, career decisions, health choices, financial commitments, deserve more than a confident machine voice. They deserve your actual attention. Even when it's harder, Here's the uncomfortable truth. None of us think we're the 80%. We all assume we'd be the ones who'd catch the error, who'd question the answer. But the research doesn't show that 20% of people are critically minded and 80% aren't. It shows that most people, most of the time, surrender, including thoughtful people, including experts. The phenomenon appears across demographics and education levels. Having more expertise in a field didn't consistently protect people from following wrong AI advice about that field. This isn't about intelligence. It's about defaults. About the paths of least resistance that our minds naturally follow, especially when we're tired, busy, or overwhelmed. And in a world where we're constantly tired, busy, and overwhelmed, the path that leads through the AI gets more and more worn. The timeline here is remarkable. Kahneman publishes his dual system theory in 2011. ChatGPT launches in 2022. By 2026, researchers are proposing we need a third system to understand how humans now think. 15 years from a landmark theory of cognition to its fundamental revision. That's how fast the landscape has changed. And we're not at the end of the story. We're barely at the beginning. AI systems are getting more capable, more integrated, more present in every decision we make. The question isn't whether we'll use these tools, it's how we'll use them, and more importantly, who will become in the using. Cognitive surrender isn't a character flaw, it's a predictable response to a new cognitive environment. The researchers aren't judging, they're documenting. And warning, if you want to explore more about how psychology research is reshaping our understanding of the mind, subscribe. We cover these findings every week. Because understanding your own thinking, that's the one thing you probably shouldn't outsource.